Hey, we are back with another interview from the interview series. And this is an artist I'm super excited to be sitting down with. Not only do we have a song in the works, but we also wanted to sit down with her. This is somebody that my lady Mel told me about via TikTok. And I saw the song that she's got with another artist that we're familiar with, Cori.
Yeah.
Right. And then Mel started showing me all of your stuff on TikTok, your music and stuff like that. And talent is undeniable.
I appreciate that.
For
Thank
sure.
you.
I'm and we're gonna let the ChadArmesTV and listeners become familiar with her if they're not already. And this is Miss Cori.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, so good. Thank you for letting me be here.
No, for sure. Thank y'all for coming down. You got the crew with you, and I appreciate y'all for taking the time out to come down, man.
Yeah, of course.
And we're just gonna have some conversation. Like, I want the people to kind of get to know a little bit more of who you are.
Yeah.
We'll just start with growing up. So where are you originally from?
I grew up in Southern Indiana, all over Southern Indiana, basically Harrison County, Floyd County area, any 812 area code. I graduated at a really small school. I think the whole school when I graduated was like 500 people, K through 12. So it was so small.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I ended up.
Okay.
Just real old small town.
No, for sure. So growing up in Indiana, what was like childhood like growing up there?
When we finally landed in Lanesville, it was your old school 90s vibe. Like think back where you're outside until the lights come on and then you go home.
Yeah.
I had
when times were better.
Yeah, when times were a lot easier.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a chaotic childhood, but me and my sisters and my brother made the best of it, the best we could.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the times, we could just go and be.
Yeah. So siblings, you got two sisters and a brother?
I do. Biologically, I have two sisters and a brother. We grew up we had a blended family growing up, and then we kind of just sort of adopted.
Yeah.
4 other sisters. So there was a total of 8 of us, and my brother was the only boy.
Oh, bless him.
He quickly joined the Marine Corps as fast as he could. But it was good. We had a good time.
Okay, cool. So like growing up in Indiana, like I know we talked a little bit off camera about you started singing early, right? So do you remember your earliest recollection of like a specific song or a specific artist that really just made you like, oh man, even as a kid, like that you were drawn to?
Well, okay. So my earliest memory also might be tailored to a childhood like camcorder video. Is I was obsessed with the movie Men in Tights when I was a kid, and that's so awkward to say as an adult. But
Robin Hood?
Yes,
hey, Mel Brooks. That's a fire movie, though.
It was so good. So we used to reenact stuff when we were kids, and that's when, like I said, when times were good.
Yeah.
But that's when I started learning about music. Both my parents sing and dance. They both did it for jobs, and they're both extremely talented.
Dope.
So it started with them. That's actually how they connected. That's how they fell in love. Was I think they were dance partners first, and then they started singing together.
Yeah.
They were kind of locally known, and they traveled a bit to do it, but
in Indiana.
Yes, more Louisville area. So,
okay.
Yeah. I think if I had to be honest, my first like love of singing actually started with Garth Brooks and Martina McBride.
Dope.
So right in that era.
90s country.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they're still kicking dope shit now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 90s country to me. I say this all the time. Besides like rap, like 90s country is my favorite music.
Absolutely. Same.
Yeah. Like you can't beat the especially like all the dope 90s country groups back in the day. There's not country groups anymore like that.
Right.
There was an endless amount of fire music from the country genre in the 90s.
Yep.
It was just so authentic, and a lot of it's probably because we grew up with it.
Yeah.
But like, so you said your family was like heavy into it, and you said Garth Brooks, Martina McBride.
Yep.
When was the earliest that you started? I mean, I know as kids, kids go through the house singing stuff or dance on and stuff like that. When when do you mean, like, do you think that was kind of like when you started doing stuff like that, like where it was like, I can legit, she can really sing, you know?
I remember performing about, I think the first performance I ever actually did, my grandparents took me to a church and it was like an Awana kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, bad admittance on parenting, but they used to put a ball cap on me and sneak me into bars so I could sing really quick and then rush me out the back door.
Oh, okay, yeah.
When they were having like karaoke contests and stuff. And I remember doing that as young as 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I just kind of fell in love with it from then. Like there was a lot of us. So getting attention and being the baby, of course I wanted the attention.
Oh, so you
but
were the baby of
I
all
am
the...
the baby.
Okay,
I am the baby. I'm the 1990 baby.
Okay.
But I kind of ran with it. It was my place to feel like home, and everything was still and everything was good, and I had control of everything. So
yeah,
that became my home very quickly, and that is very much still my home.
Yeah, like your escape, like to get away from whatever, whether it's trauma or whether it's, you know, just negativity in general or just bad vibes.
Yeah.
Music is what kind of is your escape, or has been.
Absolutely. It's so funny. My following now, we've just kind of all become a family, and they've watched me even grow and pour into, you know, show after show after show. It's funny. One of the most common things they'll say is, I love how much you pour out on stage. And I'm like, most people go to therapy. Most people do, you know, have their thing where some people go to the gym, right? For me, it's literally those moments on stage where I dump everything out. I'll come off stage sweating.
For sure. Yeah.
Like a whole just mess.
That's your gym. I feel that.
I
feel that for sure. That's how I've always been.
Yeah, that is just where that's where it all goes.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like I get that in return too. I don't care if it's 4 people right at the front gate or whatever, the front of the stage. I'll get that back from people. And I think that's part of like what pushed me to continue doing music is I finally felt like I wasn't the only one. Like we were all in one. Like I love Jelly. Jelly says the thing about it being a worship service.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's I've only been to 2 concerts in my life, and one was Kelly Clarkson and one was Jelly Roll.
Oh,
and
dope.
I saw him in what's it, Johnson City, Tennessee last November of 22.
Yep, I remember that one.
Yep. And he said that about it being a worship service, and it was like, that is exactly it. That is exactly how I feel.
Yeah, and it's wild because she just did Save Me on her.
I just saw that on the way here too.
Yeah. That's crazy. The 2 concerts you've been to, and she just covered.
Yep. She's so talented.
Yeah, that's wild. It's the 2, Jelly and Kelly are the 2 that you have seen, and then Kelly Clarkson doing Save Me on her karaoke stuff. That was pretty crazy.
I haven't actually seen her do it yet, but I know she had to nail it. She was a big influence like vocally a big influence for me when she first hit Idol.
Yeah, for sure. Because at that time,
right
you
around,
were probably like 15, 16 probably?
I think she came, I think it was right around 2000, 2001.
Oh, so you were,
I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I'm tripping. I was 15 or 16.
I picked her out from her first audition, was like, yep, she's going to win.
Yeah. That's crazy. So like, let's talk about that. So you started early as 3 and 4 years old, you said, singing and stuff.
Yep.
And they were sneaking you into like karaoke competitions. So what age, how old were you during that time?
The earliest recollection I have of that, I was probably about 7.
Okay.
I was probably about 7 years old, staying out. Because like a lot of times they'd have like a restaurant in there or whatever, and then they have the bar, but once the restaurant closes, they go in. But
they get grown folks.
They put a ball cap on me, put me in a big old jacket. Yeah. I remember sitting there holding my little Shirley Temple because that was all I could have. But then the bartenders would know. They'd just be like, "It's fine."
Yeah. Well, did your parents, did they sing and stuff at that bar too? So it was like,
so
it kind of was like, oh, that's just that's their daughter.
Yep. Cool. And then funny enough, like, so my parents were actually divorced pretty early on. They got married after I was born, and they didn't stay together very long. But being in different states, it was so crazy because you'd have people over here that knew I was, you know, his daughter or her, you know, hers. And then I told you about our blended family. Yeah. That the dad of those girls ended up opening a bar. and we all go in there and sing because that was us. We always would be
Yeah.
together and do music and stuff. And they were like, we're gonna open a bar and do that, so it's legit.
Oh, well, cool. And how old were you then when they opened the bar?
I think I was about
Teens?
16.
Okay, teenager,
Yeah.
yeah. And by that time, were you? So when did Cori know, like, this is I want to just do this, or was it always something you just said, I want to be, this is what I want to do? And then of course I know life happens and you have to do it as you can do it type stuff, you know, while you're trying to provide. But
I think it was always in me to do it. And then, you know, as you grow, I think it's always been the thing. Like, I'm never gonna not do music, and that's, you know, even now it's like, say we don't ever move anywhere from where we are right now, I've got some great people behind me and supporting me, but like, it's never not gonna be a thing I do.
No, for sure. Did you have go-to songs that you would do for the karaoke stuff? Like,
yes.
What are the go-to songs that you would do?
Killing Me Softly was a award winner a lot.
Yeah.
I did I think one of the last competitions I did before I really took off with this was X's and O's by Elle King.
Yeah.
She's got a wild voice. We did some Grace Potter in the Nocturnals. She's got a really crazy wild voice. Shoot. It's kind of weird because, like, I have such a wild array of music. Like, my mom poured that into me, like, hard. You're gonna know everything from Fleetwood Mac to Aretha. You're gonna know Simon and Garfunkel, like all of it. Martina. So I've kind of just done it all. But Killing Me Softly was always kind of like, no matter where I was vocally, because with such a powerful voice, also comes a lot of strain. If you don't have no
sing. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
It can wear on me, especially if I get lazy or don't use technique. But yeah, that was always kind of like a safe place. So
I'm glad that you said talking about your voice and stuff. Did you ever have to go to like classes or something, like to work on it, or was it just a natural thing that you just improved on by?
Well, my mom had some really good tips for me growing up. I mean, so that taught me a lot. And then I had an amazing choir director in junior high and high school. I mean, it was a K through 12 school, so he did it all. But Mr. Guernsey was one of the coolest souls I've ever met, and he knew that this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he knew that this was a skill that was good for me.
Yeah.
So he always made sure, you know, hey, this is the right technique. If you're not going to do it, you're going to burn it up.
Yeah.
So he was always good to us. And then I never really did any vocal lessons, but I did as I got older. I stopped using my technique, and it ended up weighing on me. I ended up finding out I had nodules back in 21.
Is that like on your?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're like calluses on your vocal cords. And I was actually on tour when I found out, because the first few shows I did, it was taking longer and longer for me to recover.
Yeah.
And I ended up seeing an ENT. Luckily enough, she's amazing. And she's worked on Adele, Miley Cyrus, Dick Vitale, things like that. And she's like, you have a year left unless we do this surgery. And I was like, please.
So 2021, you had to have, what kind of surgery was it?
It was just vocal nodules. They just go in and they remove them. We ended up doing it in February of 2022. And she's like, you know, if you use your technique, you'll last a while. This may be something with as powerful as you are that we may have to revisit. But yeah, that's something, that's my only biggest hindrance, is making sure that I do work out, that I do use good technique, that I'm not lazy with it.
So when she said you had a year, you talking about a year to where you wouldn't be able to sing anymore, or where your voice would just be completely gone?
Yeah, a year where I wouldn't have any control at all to be able to sing.
So it would just be kind of just damaged vocal cords, basically.
Yep.
Man, well, good. Well, I mean,
that was a hard meeting to have.
I mean, obviously you was nervous about the surgery. Did the surgery go? Was it pretty routine? Was it?
Yeah. She told me, she's like, listen, we can. You know, there's some risks with every surgery, but she told me, she's like, listen, I said, this is my career. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And she was very honest with me. There are risks, but in the same sense, this is my work history, and I want you to know that I've got you. So she was really, really great.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Well, good thing. Shout out to her.
For sure.
So we're going to backtrack a little bit. So
Sure.
first time that you recorded, like in a professional studio.
Yep. I was 14.
14 years old. Okay. Was it just a song that you was doing with somebody else? Was it one of those like studios at the mall or something? Or was it like a...
No, he was actually, his name was Marcus McDonald. And he was a family friend, but he had a in-home studio, but he was doing national work.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Like the setup was just wild. Even now,
yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, I still think back to that. But nope, I just did a cover of Broken Wing, and it was one of the craziest things I've ever done. I stood behind the mic like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I know how to sing, but I don't know how to do any
like
of this
I don't know what I'm doing. Why'd you put me in this room?
Yeah. And so did the bug had already bitten you obviously before you recorded in the studio, I'm sure, but did that just, when you heard yourself on CD or whatever, MP3 or whatever, I'm so old, like
it was CD.
On a cassette tape, you know?
It was.
Okay, so CD, so dope. So when you heard that, did that take it? Because when I first heard myself on a CD, you couldn't tell me I was horrible, but you couldn't tell me I wasn't the best rapper, because I'm like, oh my God, I just made that.
I just did that.
Yeah. Is that how it was with you? Like, as far as like amping up, like the passion about it?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I heard it, I was like, because he like showed me different techniques that he could do with my voice. And I remember even then, it was ingrained to me, if you can't do it on stage, don't overdo it in a studio. And he showed me, he's like, this is you. This is your sound. It's not overdone. And that made me want to both be on stage and actually put records out. Like, because it's my voice. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I know that like on streaming platforms, the first song you did was 2021, right?
Correct.
So when did you start writing? So like, was that teenager stuff, or was it like later?
I actually started writing really young. Like I said, my childhood was a little messy, to understate it.
Right.
And so I actually started writing poetry a lot when I was a kid, and I would.
Like diary? So did you do diary too? Like a diary?
I still have them all. I have books upon books. Yeah. But yeah, I started writing poetry really, really young. I had a teacher in school that encouraged that, and she's just like, continue to do this. I'm going to continue to submit them to like some of these poetry things online and whatnot. And when I won that first award, that encouraged me to continue pushing to learn words. And
because you're going through a lot of trauma, obviously, as a kid, like, and you're trying to just whatever you can do to like escape whatever that trauma is. We don't have to speak about that.
No, that's okay. I was already writing the things that were happening in my head and in my heart. But honestly, learning the words to put down in poetry kind of taught me how to feel. It walked me through, like I'd see something or somebody would say a word that was descriptive enough, and I'd be like, that makes sense to how I'm feeling about this situation. And so it kind of, if you get into my lyrics too much, I use a lot of metaphors or kind of like just very descriptive lyrics.
Oh yeah.
And just that's how I leared how to write. So
so like
started doing that about 10.
Okay. So in a good, it is in a good way. Like what you went through, you were able to hone in on that, and like your therapy ended up being what your passion is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To where like you going through that is, to be real, it's probably what's made you a really good songwriter. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't start as songs, but it was poetry. It's still, it's still rhyme form. It's still,
Yep. Just, I say this all the time, and it's gotten easier now as I get older, but I don't like to write about things I've not been through.
No, yeah.
Or try and write inauthentically.
I wish rappers would adopt that same thing you just said. They don't, but
it's
I
fun.
wish they did.
Yeah. If you can be creative in your mind and you can pull it out.
If you can play make believe,
right? Absolutely,
no,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, for sure. I see what you're saying though, 100%.
But all of that, like even the way, if I've been through it and I can write about it, I can transfer it again to on stage, and that's the goal for me is that place of connection. So.
And you can deliver it so much better because you freaking lived it.
Yep.
You went through it.
Yep.
So it's like, it's not just words on a paper or words on a phone or something. it means a lot more to you than just that.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's get into your catalog. So
Okay.
2021, you released a single called Oxygen, right?
Yes.
That's I love all the songs that you've got on streaming. I told Mel that's my favorite one.
That's so funny to me.
And I like them. I mean, I like all the songs, but something about that one, I don't know. It's just you're dialed in a different. It's different. It may be because you're not being so powerful.
Yeah.
It's more like I don't want to say laid back because it's still got some.
It's got a vibe.
No, it definitely does. I told her it kind of reminds me of like some Sade type stuff.
Yeah.
And I love Sade.
Yeah.
So like, I think that may be what it is.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about how that was the first song? I mean, I know you said you recorded some stuff as a teenager.
Yeah.
Professionally done song that you said, hey, I'm going to.
Yeah, that was my first single. The producer on that is Jordan Bailey. He owns 410 Studios out in Southern Indiana.
Okay.
And I'm really good friends with his wife, and I knew that he was the bass player for Carrollton, the Christian band, the mainstream Christian band, Carrollton. Okay. And so I knew he was into music, and he was like, hey, before that song was actually produced, he had me do some like feature work on a movies and commercial work.
Oh, dope.
That he was doing.
Yeah.
And so one day he was like, all right, it's time we do a single for you. I was like, I don't know. He's like, come on up, we'll do it. I came up to the studio and I have a book. I told you I write poetry just to kind of clear my head. And at that point, he just basically grabbed the book and he was like, this one. Yeah. I was like, it's not finished. I don't have a great melody for it. It's not finished. And I mean, within minutes, he had it pulled together and we finished it up that day. And I think we ended up doing two sessions with it, but he brought it to life in a way that I never would have seen it coming. And it was a good song. It was a crazy time period for me with what was put into that song. So it was a good one. It was a good one. I crack up when everybody's like, that's my favorite. I'm like, it's so just not what I thought everybody would say. There's no power in it.
And I love them all but it's just something about that one. And that usually happens a lot too, where as artists, that song to you probably seems like so dated.
Yeah.
Or like, because it's so old to you.
Yep.
You're looking at it like, really? You don't like, but it's new to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same way people will hit me up about songs. This is my favorite song. It's one from like 2011.
Right.
Dope, but I'm like, I would pick a different one because with us artists, it's like our newest stuff is usually like our favorite stuff at the time.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean?
Because we're constantly trying to level up anyway and share what's going on, kind of ish right now. But
no, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that was May of 2021, right? And then December 2021, I noticed you did a song with a gentleman named Sean Williams.
Yeah.
If You Only Knew, which is a really dope country song.
Yes.
And that was 6-7 months later. So was that somebody that just reached out to you about a feature? Was it somebody you knew personally?
Actually, funny enough, TikTok brought Sean and I together. Sean was putting out Where You Left Me. And that was the first song, like, you know how you catch on to new music on TikTok. And it's so saturated right now, too, that you've got like a playlist at a time now.
Yeah.
Well, he had put out that he was doing the Bobby Bones show or competing to do the Bobby Bones show. And when the song finally dropped, I just fell in love with it. It fit my life and it was so beautiful. And so I learned how to kind of do duet videos or whatever on TikTok. And so I was just singing along while I was driving. And I just told him, I was like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And his wife, what was funny is his wife had actually started following me before I put that video up.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, Church Girl made a video with you. I don't know why they called me Church Girl, but I used to lead worship and she had seen a video before. But Sean and Katie have become super close. Their twins are my quote niece and nephew.
Oh, dope.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was, I'm glad you brought up TikTok. So when did the TikTok stuff start with you? Was it with the first single or had you been doing TikTok previous?
Actually, not super long before I put out my first single.
So early 2021.
Yeah, I recorded my first single in January and we didn't even put it out till May. But I think I didn't start my page until like middle of February.
Okay, so you had already had that song in the can, but you hadn't released it yet.
Right, yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to release it at all.
Right. So was it all, I'm assuming it's probably too, like, dealing with like what you had to go through as a kid, but like, has self-confidence always been something that you've battled with? Even being as talented as you are, is it still something that you
Yeah.
fight?
Yep.
Is that what was keeping you from putting that song out?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't know if it was going to affect the relationship situation I was dealing with at that time.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was married then.
Yeah.
And we were kind of going through it, but I didn't know if it would mess that up. And then, like I said, my childhood is a little messy, so
Yeah.
one of those situations on, is it good enough?
Right, because that's how you were probably made to feel growing up. I got you. Okay.
Yep.
So TikTok, you said January you recorded the song. You started your account on TikTok February 21.
Yep.
Did you start to see a good uptick with TikTok quick, or was it kind of like a slow build? Was you just posting videos of you singing?
A little bit of both. It was, yeah, I guess I could answer that. Yeah. Yeah. We started out with just doing little clips of me singing, and then, kind of trying to meet with other people, and we were doing a lot of lives before I ever really started posting videos. I started doing shop lives. That's actually what took it off.
Okay.
So I build furniture and I restore furniture and stuff like that too.
Oh, and you was just doing videos of
Yeah,
that, like live
so a
streams.
lot of them, I wasn't posting a whole lot, but I was doing lives.
Yeah.
Once I reached 1,000, I was doing lives like 3 or 4 nights a week. And so everybody would come in for the shop lives, and they would stay with me for 4 hours at a time.
And then you just started like singing.
Yep, I was singing and painting and doing all the things, building furniture, and they loved it. It became a whole thing, and then I ended up meeting some of the people that we ended up going on tour with. It kind of just, they hopped in, and it grew from there.
Okay, so when did that tour become a thing? Was that 2022? Was that after you had the surgery? It was during that. You said that was during, right?
Yeah, it was during.
Okay.
The first show I did was in Fort Wayne. I met up with the CV crew in Fort Wayne. They had been on the road for about a month or two by that point.
Okay.
The CV crew is the content violation at that time.
Yeah.
And it was a bunch of officers and doing the comedy skits
King
and whatnot. Yeah.
Them, right?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
That's where I met Charlie.
Yeah.
And I ended up meeting up with them in Fort Wayne on May 15th. And they kind of just popped me on stage and made me sing an Adele song, and it kind of took off, and everybody was super excited about it, and they were like, bring her with you. Like,
so
bring her. Yep.
Okay.
So I did, the next show was Jacksonville and Greensboro, North Carolina, and then from there I just kind of stuck.
And that was that 2021 or
2021. Yep.
And then 2022 is when, I know, because we're fixing to get into the next single, Promise.
Yeah.
Right? Which that was February of 23. So 2022, was that when you had the touring and the surgery and stuff like that? So
yeah. Okay. So we did a lot of touring. I found out in late October of 2021 that I needed to have surgery. Once we started touring, it's no secret that I partnered up with somebody, and we started doing music together for a little while. Okay. So I put my solo stuff on pause.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then we had the surgery mid-February of 2022. Yeah. And I was still kind of working, doing that. And then I didn't put anything out until, like I said, until Promise came out in 2023.
Okay, gotcha. So you want to speak about that one, how that one came about? Was that another one of those situations, kind of like
yeah,
the other track, or was it?
Kind of. So funny enough, I wrote that the same day that I wrote Carried Away with Charlie.
Okay.
And I had just gone through some stuff back in September, ended up having to move, yada, yada. And he called me and he's like, listen, to get your head out of a hole, you're not done with music. Like, you can't put this down. You got to come out here and meet me in Nashville in like 3 days. Mm-hmm. And I got you. We'll hang. And we're going to write a song. We're going to write a banger.
Yeah, my bad. So,
no, it's okay.
Carried Away was a few months prior to Promise. That was December of 22.
Yep.
When Charlie Kingery did Carried Away, right?
Yep. We met up in October. It was me in that writing room. That was probably one of my favorite writing rooms I've ever been in. It was me, Kingery, and Brian Martin.
Oh yeah.
Brian, and he is. Yeah. I've known him the whole tour too, and he's just absolutely wonderful. His writing ability is is beyond this world. Like, it's out of this world. And his heart is just as vast. So, but we met up, sat down in a writing room, and within 10 minutes, Carried Away was put together. But so once we were done in the studio that day, I just started playing with some country tracks just off of YouTube. And that's how Promise came to be. It was super corny. Wrote it in about 15 minutes. And I was like, this is so like chintzy and country. What am I doing writing country? And I put it down and it came together. I brought it to Zach Garner, who is my producer right now. And he's over in Sound Kitchen back in Franklin. And him and Jesse just Zach created a whole new track just so we didn't have to buy a beat or anything like that. He created a whole new track so fast, and it gave it such a different vibe. And Promise came to be. There's actually, as he was doing it, there's actually an acoustic version of that song too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's not been put out, but it was, it came about in production. So.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So at that time, you did the tour, the tour with a lot of the officers, content violation tour, sorry. And then after that, you and Kingery did the song. Did that song pop instantly, or did it kind of hit a stride like later on after y'all released it?
Which one? Carried Away?
Yeah, Carried Away.
Carried Away took so fast. I hadn't been in the public much. Like I said, we had some really big things happen back in September of 2022, and that was just my time to kind of tank. I disappeared for a little while.
You just wanted to lay low.
I needed to get my head wrapped around what was going on and where I needed to be, and still maintain being a good mom.
Right.
But because that will always come first.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But that song, as soon as because we'd been asked, hey, Kingery and Cori need to do a song together. We'd been asked for months to do one together. And then when we finally did, as soon as I snuck the first little clip of it, it just took off. It took off. Everybody's like, this is the song for my life.
That's all. Yeah, that's a dope ass song.
The toxicity of some relationships hits a little different.
But it's real though. Yeah. And then you did Do Your Worst. That was next. That was May of 23. Was another one where was that one you did in that same time frame as far as?
Yeah, Do Your Worst. Actually, the funny part about Do Your Worst, I had written it in, I believe it was September of 21. The night I got home from the hospital, I had COVID after a big music festival we did.
Oh, okay.
We did a TR and Brittany own Richlands Dairy Farm. And we had a big old, we called it Wood Talk out there, and which was a blast. I went home and about a week later found out I had COVID, and that almost took me out.
It was bad.
That was a bad go. But so the first line of that song is actually a joke about healing from COVID. But yeah, that one was written then, and then
you saved it till
just saved it.
Right.
Yep.
That's cool. So. And then the most recent one you've got is Saving Me. Which that was towards the end of 23.
Yes.
That one, that's probably, Oxygen's my favorite, but then Saving Me is like right underneath that one. It's it's a really powerful song.
Thank you. That's actually the second rendition of that song. The first rendition of that song is no longer out. I wrote that one in about August of 2021. Like I said, I put a lot of my solo stuff on pause, just because I had started doing some duo work. But I wrote that one in August of 2021, had it paired up with somebody else, ended up taking it down, and then we redid this. Zach took this one, and I said this song was the first like love song I ever wrote. And I loved every bit of it. This one was my baby. So Zach took it. It had such a powerful like track to it initially, and he recreated it to something completely new. And the third verse on there is just took it to a new level.
No, for sure. No,
so they did a good job on that.
No, definitely that, and I saw that one does really well on your TikTok as well.
Yeah, it sure does.
So what do you have in the works currently that you can talk about?
Oh, so much. We have so much in the works. I mean, you and I got something going on.
Absolutely.
It's going to be so good. I'm excited for that one. We've got several collab works happening.
Yeah.
You know, there's been hints of Kingery and I doing another one.
Oh, dope. That'd be cool.
This hasn't been released yet, but I know that Roy Caudill and I are working together at the end of the week.
Shout out to the Kentucky Music Mafia, man. I need to link up with them guys and get an interview too.
Roy is such an artist. Oh, he's so amazing all by himself. And then we've got several. There's several collabs in there, and then on solo stuff, we've got a really cool track called Bonnie getting ready to come out. So.
Oh, dope! So your next solo record's gonna be called Bonnie.
Yes, sir.
Dope. Hell yeah, that's cool.
That just talks about just getting up on your feet and being a badass and making the decision. Because what if it tips on that whole Bonnie and Clyde vibe.
Yeah.
And basically, it's the highlight point of it is what if Bonnie didn't stick around by Clyde? What if she'd have just done her own thing?
Yeah.
So
that's dope because that's not really a take that you see. You see a lot of the Bonnie and Clyde type of takes, but you don't see that take. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah. Is that something that you wrote like solo, or did you?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. Driving down the road one day, and I was like,
it just came to you.
Yep. What if Bonnie didn't?
Yeah. And do you write that without the tracks, and then you just build a track around it?
Yes, most of the time. Like if I get bored, sometimes. So my husband trucks, and we've covered probably 150,000 miles in a little less than a year and a half.
Yeah, so you got plenty of time to like listen to music, sing, work on stuff.
Yep. And
karaoke and stuff in the truck.
Yeah, and sometimes like I'll be driving on the road or riding down the road, and I'll just get kind of like a melody in my head, and I can't find a beat to go with it or kind of conform to it. So it's a lot of fun to just kind of have that and then be able to hand it. There's a security in knowing that I've got producers that I can hand it to, and they'll create something fantastic with it. So
yeah, that's interesting. So it's cool too, because like me doing the stuff that I do, a lot of rap artists can do write without tracks. I've always been the one. I need a beat to write to.
Yeah.
But like seeing it on the flip side is cool because, like you said, if you've got somebody that'll be like, I got this, make something around it for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's a cool way to look at it too.
Yeah.
And especially the different style of music too. I guess it's kind of easier to do it like the way you're doing it, because you may have a melody in your head, but you got to make the sounds around it match it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's neat because like, especially with Zach, I can take it to him and say, this is what I hear. I know this isn't perfect or in time, and he'll fix the symmetry on it. And then I'm like, okay, so I hear this element and this element. Can you build it? And he creates something just absolutely fire. And Bonnie is actually my first step into the country genre. So we're stepping a little bit out of the pop R&B, and we're moving towards country. So
is that something you're excited about?
It's been a long time coming. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I grew up doing a lot of country and swore, and a lot of my following cracks up because I swore at the beginning of this, I'm not moving into country. When If You Only Knew came out, we actually had somebody pop up the day it was released and say, hey, are you interested in doing country full time? And I said, no, absolutely not. And that was a big miss, is all I'll say. It was somebody big that was asking if I would do country, and that was a huge miss on my part. And later got some feedback on that wasn't so wonderful. But yeah, so this is long overdue, I think, is the better way to put that.
Yeah. No, that's cool though. So to end the interview off, I'm gonna ask you one more thing.
Sure.
Okay. This is something that Mel had me suggested I started doing in the interviews, and it's a really cool idea.
Okay.
So, who is Cori?
Oh, that's such a loaded question, and that was the question that had me nervous the whole way up here. Cori's passionate. I don't know any other better way to explain that. I am a mom first. I am a wife, and I'm a passionate human. Quite honestly, it could have. I am solid with or without an audience was something I saw recently, and that is so true. I will always be me, and I will always do music whether anyone's listening or not, because again, stepping on that stage is my therapy.
No, for sure.
I just hope that it touches somebody.
You need it as much as the listeners want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if nothing else, she's passionate.
No, for sure. Well, for your first interview, was it that bad?
No, it wasn't. Cool.
Yeah, for sure. So another thing too, you just started a YouTube channel recently.
I did.
Okay. So for people that are tuning into this, we want to make sure that y'all subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yay.
We'll put our links in the description too for TikTok and
Sure.
Instagram and all that stuff. But we're going to be collaborating on some music in the future, me and her, and we're going to do more interview style stuff like this, I'm sure, in the future. But y'all be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because you're going to start posting stuff on there too, right?
Yeah, we've got some videos up. We were looking today. We do it's not just music. We do a lot of family, but I mean, as you can see,
No, that's dope.
I brought my crew with me.
No, that's
and
dope though. That
everything
gives the people,
we do is our family. So
yeah, that gives the people a glimpse as to to who y'all are, not just as the artist, but the person, the human being.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's what people invest in that. They're going to follow you whatever you choose to do.
Right.
And you probably found that out through TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok stuff.
Yeah. It's so funny. I tell people all the time, they're like, I don't do videos or I don't do TikTok, and I'm like, you know what? Just do it. Like make like Nike and just do it.
Yep.
And I promise you, your people will find you. And I think that's so awesome how TikTok and social media has moved, is like, just do it, because those people that you don't think you'll get will find you.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
For sure. Well, Cori, I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all.
I appreciate y'all coming through, and I look forward to the people being able to get to know you better.
Yeah.
And if they haven't came across your music or your TikTok or your videos, hopefully that, you know, they'll subscribe and they're going to be just as impressed as we are, I'm pretty sure.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And y'all be sure to subscribe to her and follow her on TikTok and Instagram. ChadArmesTV. Cori.